If you had high hopes for today's official Helldivers 2 announcement, thinking that the questions would all be answered and the solutions would be spelled out in great detail, allow me to disabuse you of that delusion. The player base needed answers. They needed action and the God's honest truth. But what we ended up with was anything but that, leading to the players asking, how in the hell did we end up here again? You can always support the channel by hitting subscribe and ringing the notifications bell as we check out the latest from Arrowhead and Helldivers. Alright, this is kind of one of those cases where it came down to ask and you shall receive. Because in yesterday's Helldivers video, I said this. What's also missing in this discussion is the much anticipated official announcement regarding their course correction concerning durable damage, and hopefully a lot more. When we got word that the Hive Guard changes would be reverted earlier this week, there was also a mention that an announcement would be following shortly thereafter, and we've still not seen that. Now, considering how electrified the community is right now, I expected it yesterday, at the latest today, which is, by the way, May the 7th, and we still haven't seen it post. And here we are, less than 12 hours later, and Arrowhead has indeed responded. And this is, well, it's something. Now, full disclosure, I've read through this at least twice, maybe 3 times, and now that I've seen all 887 words and 5,352 characters multiple times, I've got to say my opinion on this post has not changed in the slightest. So, after the not well received AMA, the Exo Experts Warbond, patch 6.2.2, the Steam review bomb and mass downvotes on any and all official announcements leading to the community literally tearing itself to pieces, let's see what Arrowhead did to calm down the situation. And of course, by now, you should know how I do what I do, so expect my reactions to be jammed in here as well. Anyways, let's go. To our dedicated citizens of Super Earth, we've been following your feedback over the past few days and seeing the conversations across the Helldivers 2 community. I would ask why it's just been over the past few days and not over the last few years, and why does it take a review bomb to get the studio to respond? Anyways, let's keep going. Helldivers 2 matters to all of us, and we want to be clear about what we're working on and what's coming next. Alongside new content, we're focusing on improving the core of the game, stability, progression, and the Galactic War. Below, we pulled together answers to some of the questions we're seeing across Reddit, Discord, and X. We'll keep sharing more as we go. What is the team focusing on right now, and what are their current priorities? Right now, a major focus for the team is improving meta progression and the Galactic War. We've significantly expanded the team working in this area, reflecting how important these long-term systems are for the overall player experience. All right, time out. How much has this part of the team expanded? You know, did it move from 1 to 2 developers in total? Maybe they picked up 10 more? Details matter here, especially when the Galactic War has been damn near forgettable for a large part of 2025 and into 2026. The goal is to deliver deeper progression and a more engaging Galactic War with features like, and they list them out here, more meaningful rewards and community progression systems, evolving major orders into longer multi-week themed campaigns, branching outcomes that create clearer stakes and consequences based on player actions, and you'll start to see the first results of this work this summer. All right, time out. I've got some questions, even large doubts about this last part, which I've got to say is vague to begin with, but what are these meaningful rewards and what community progression system? Are we going back to the old days of liberating or defending during an MO with the idea that there were multiple rewards on the table should we pull off the victory? Because if that's what community progression system means, then I'm all for it. But, you know, when we talk about MOs and their idea to make them multi-week themed campaigns, I mean, again, it reads really well, but, you know, you can make the MO a day or you can make it 3 months. If there's nothing that hooks in players and rewards them for their time, none of this that they've written out here matters. Stakes and consequences, again, sounds pretty good, but you know, the first implementation of their more advanced mechanic is what we first saw rolled out during the Cyberstand campaign, and it ended up pissing off a lot of divers and created even more factional divisions within the player base. Also, coming this summer? Really? So we're talking about what, somewhere before late September? Man, I don't know. I've been around Helldivers for a long time now, just like many of you. And this feels like it's going to take even longer than that and may not be that revolutionary in its design. Overall, fingers crossed, but this first bit here is already sounding vague, and we've got a lot more to go in this post. Up next, they're about to crank up the spice level to a 10 out of 10. Here we go. In multiple updates, there have been hidden changes to weapons or enemies. Why were they not announced in patch notes? The studio's answer. We want our patch notes to be as clear and complete as possible to the level of detail that matters to our players. In some cases, changes have not been communicated with the clarity we intend, and we are continuing to improve our internal process so patch notes more accurately reflect gameplay adjustments. Man, I'm holding my tongue right now. We are also working on how we explain balance updates more clearly, especially when a change can have effects across multiple weapons, enemies, and gameplay systems. Okay, so first things first here, you, the studio, Arrowhead, whoever wrote this, totally did not answer the f***ing question, which irritates the ever-living hell out of me. You know what you did. You also know what it is the community was wanting a straight and truthful answer for, and instead, you danced around it, turning it into a question of clarity. Just stop it. Stop it. Of course, we want more clarity in the patch notes, especially when it comes to the studio describing enemy buffs and using very vague terms like slightly more this or a little more that. And then we have to wait for the data miners to update the wiki to see what you actually did to the game, but not answering for the hidden changes at all? Here was an opportunity for you as a studio to kind of lay out all your cards on the table and to own up for all the times you've done something. For instance, the Coyote Fire status changes, and you tried to spin it into an issue of clarity. And that's just shameful. Okay, how about updates? Well, let's see if they take on this question directly, or will it be a sidestep answer as well? The question was, will we get more frequent updates about the game? Their answer, yes. Improving how regularly and clearly we communicate is a priority for us. We're moving toward more consistent communication updates with deeper conversations happening more often. In the near term, the conversation will be focusing on the biggest issues we're seeing from players, including tech and performance improvements, the vision for game balance moving forward, player progression, and the broader player experience within the Galactic War. Alongside this, we'll be more transparent about community feedback, including what we're seeing and what we're prioritizing and what actions we're taking. You'll start to see this reflected more clearly in patch notes and other updates. Now, just to remind everyone, this is a common answer we've been getting for years now from the studio, and the promises of better, more consistent communication came out anytime Arrowhead has really essentially shot themselves in the foot. The last time was after the Into the Untested update came out, where performance was just totally screwed up. PCs were hard locking left, right, and center, and from there, we ended up getting 2 dev blogs over on the official Arrowhead site. Remember these? Tech blog number 1 and diving into the development team. That was October 3rd and November 6th, 2025. We were also asked at that time inside the HT2 Discord what we wanted to see for the next blog, and if I remember correctly, we wanted a write-up on the game engine, and it never happened. We also saw a similar comment to this back in late 2024 when the Escalation of Freedom update went live, and we had players leaving the game in droves. And so, we got this post from Arrowhead and the game director where they said they wanted to post regular surveys, which I will give them that, they have. They wanted to improve their process for patch release notes. Well, didn't we just see that again here in today's announcement? And they wanted to post more blog posts and streams to expand on topics the community was interested in. But in terms of what they're saying here, game balance, vision, player progression, and the broader player experience in the Galactic War, I'm sounding like a broken record here. It's all just vague. Where are the details? We will be adding this specific thing to the game by this date. Progression will be getting an overhaul, including this, and this. I mean, none of this carries any real weight or believability to it without the details. Unless they don't know yet what they're going to be doing, and being vague is all they've got, which I will say is 100 times more worrisome. Next up is a question I wanted to see if or how they would actually attempt to answer it concerning the Galactic War itself. Here, check it out. What quality of life upgrades and changes will we see for the Galactic War? Maybe variation in reward types, like when we used to get stratagems as rewards? Will we do more community-driven events with rewards like that? Here's their answer. Good news! Updates to the Galactic War and its rewards are coming this summer. Again, we don't know when that is. We've seen the feedback around rewards, and we want them to feel more distinctive, more meaningful, and more worthy of the battles you're fighting. This includes adding greater variety to rewards and bringing back more of the excitement players have called out, including things like stratagem unlocks and more community-driven moments. We also want the Galactic War itself to feel more reactive to player actions. I've got some thoughts on that, with events and outcomes that carry more weight. We will be sharing more details soon on how this connects to progression, balance, and the overall experience. First up, I want to say, I feel like this is something we don't have to wait until summer to experience. This was an area that they already have working items they could have dropped immediately into the game, like those cracked 180s and orbitals we got to temporarily use during the Festival of Reckoning in late December 2025. They could have attached those to, say, a 48-hour target of opportunity running this weekend just to show us that the changes are indeed coming, because everything I'm seeing is concepts with a long wait time. Plus, this would have been the ideal time to sacrifice the damned Galactic War modifier once and for all as a sign of goodwill to the players. We liked the way you could take planets during Year 1 with small forces, and ever since that thing was installed, it's been a slog of everybody joining the mob on whatever planet it wants to go to. Non-MO divers should be able to do whatever in the hell it is they want to do without hurting the MO divers. Next up is another topic we've seen Arrowhead float around and talk about for the past 2 years: public testing. Question: will you ever have public beta testing? What is your beta testing process like now? Here's their answer. Yes, expanding how we test updates with players is a priority for us. We're exploring having more closed and public beta testing with the goal of getting broader feedback, especially for balance changes before they go live. I would agree with that. One of the challenges is finding the right balance between testing changes openly and not spoiling upcoming content or narrative elements tied to the Galactic War. Today, we run closed playtests that cover both new content and balance changes, as well as wider internal studio playtests. Really? Okay. Going forward, we're looking at ways to separate these out so we can test balance more openly where it makes sense. Overall, our goal is to expand the footprint of our testing programs and bring more of the community into the process over time. Again, this is something we saw back in the post-Escalation of Freedom announcement. It's a carrot that is trotted out and dangled in front of the community whenever the shit is hitting the fan, and they are apparently already having closed beta tests, but like in the case of the Lumberer firearm or the Flame Sentry, both cannot target enemies in close, and if there had been a test environment ahead of time, I'm pretty confident both of those issues would have been sorted before last week's Warbond patch. Also, I'm really skeptical of this test server statement. I mean, I think it would be great, but it's been teased and promised for ages and has never made it across the finish line. So I don't know, maybe it appears in 2027, 2028, who knows? Plus, we've seen a steady stream of videos pop up leaking new Helldivers content found in the game files for months before a new story arc or Warbond drops. Strowman broadcasts, those intel splashes we get when we win or lose an MO, all the new Warbond gear, new biomes, new enemies. I mean, it's all been leaked, and it's been leaked for years. But we have to be concerned with not spoiling upcoming content. I mean, listen, I get the gist of the studio's caution, but considering everything that's been allowed to post and stay posted to all of these social channels, leaking everything, it sounds like it's a case of just too little too late. Up next is another spicy and interesting question. Why were mechs included in a paid Warbond? I think we already know the answer to this one, but let's see what they say. The goal with the Exo Experts Warbond was to create something that felt thematically strong and exciting, with exosuits as a core part of that fantasy. That said, We've seen the feedback around how that landed, especially when it comes to expectations around how players unlock major gameplay items like exosuits. More broadly, we want to strike the right balance between what's included in Warbonds and what's available through gameplay, so that rewards feel both exciting and fair. And to be clear, yes, you will be getting other vehicles through gameplay in the future. Okay. As soon as we saw the trailer for the Exo Experts Warbond with mechs in it, I saw a lot of your comments coming in from the community telling Arrowhead to please not release this Warbond. Hell, I said it in a bunch of my videos leading up to Exo going live as well, because once they as a studio crossed that line to adding mechs into a Warbond, there's no going back. You know, soon we'll be getting Super Destroyer upgrades all locked behind a paywall, you know, that sort of thing. And although this is a very diplomatic answer they give, let's call a spade here. Exo Experts was released for money. They had come up with an idea and they were really trying to lay into this Titanfall kind of vibe. And in order to really make it attractive to buyers, they knew they had to throw in 2 new mechs. Because by itself, let's be honest here, those armors and weapons are overall kind of meh, and it probably would not have sold. You know, looking back to the early days, there used to be a very strict dividing line. Big ticket items like the Patriot and the E-Man suits, along with support weapons, unlocked either through your ship's armory, so they were there to begin with, or you earned them through major orders. Then something happened. We started getting stratagems and warbonds, and now we've, as I've said in the past, crossed the Rubicon. We've got full-blown mechs and a paid warbond. Personally, I think the better question here would have been to post an answer about mech customization, because that's what players really want to know about, as in, will that be coming to the game, and if so, when? And finally, the question of red stratagems. When will we be getting new ones, and what about new ship modules? Well, here's their answer. We've got teams actively working on both new red stratagems, evolving ships, and player progression to level 150, and then they say, and beyond. Our goal is to expand these areas in ways that add meaningful new options and support different playstyles rather than just adding more for the sake of it. We'll be sharing more details as these get closer to release. You know, overall, I like the mention of evolving ships and player progression beyond level 150, but here again, there feels like a big missed opportunity where they could have talked about this more. A level cap increase is needed, and it has been for a long time now, but we also need more items and mechanics to interact with outside of just leveling up our ranks. Player emblems, achievements, and customization based on our individual unlocks are badly needed. Now, we've heard Johan talk about ship upgrades acting more like a skill tree, and here would have been a good time to talk about it some more, but without the details or context, it just feels like when any of this arrives, it could potentially be shallow, and as they say, adding more stuff for the sake of adding more stuff. I understand this video may feel like I'm being too harsh on Arrowhead, but let me add a bit of context before signing off. If this was the studio's first major screw up and, you know, they had come out with this post, we'd definitely give them a pass. But let's be honest, this isn't our first rodeo. Escalation of Freedom, Into the Untested, and here we go again with this post-Exo Experts fallout. We're getting these same vague, nothing burger announcements when what they really needed were specifics, expansions, and detailed explanations, and above all, the truth. Dancing around that patch notes and changes question was really the wrong move, especially when we know what they did. They know we know what they did, and they instead chose to, again, dance around the subject entirely. Anyways, as you know, I tend to wear my emotions on my sleeve, and this announcement does little to nothing to make me feel any better about where the game is headed or how long it will take to actually get there. It felt like there were several really easy W's buried in here that Arrowhead decided to just pass on, and we're left with these broad topics and extended and vague timelines. But again, that's just my 2 cents, and here's where I turn to you, my viewers, for your feedback. This post will probably mean some spicy comments down in the comment section, and you know, I'm okay with that as long as you keep it civil amongst yourselves. Remember to hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. If you're on mobile, please swipe to hype the video. And before we go, I'd like to thank each and every one of my hardcore channel members. Until the next one, this is 𝗲𝗲𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗂𝗏, signing off.